With Sam's Club, you have the freedom to shop your own way. Curbside pickup? Delivered to your doorstep? Come in and grab it yourself? Yes, yes, yes. They've got plenty of options. Your call. Say yes to shopping the way you want. Join now at samsclub.com/yes and. You must be 18 years or older to purchase a membership, and membership is subject to qualifications. Visit samsclub.com/yes and for details.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. You know those friends who support your preference for podcasts over music on road trips? That's the energy State Farm brings to insurance. With over 19,000 local agents, they help you find the coverage that fits your needs, so you can spend less time worrying about insurance and more time enjoying the ride. Download the State Farm app or go online at statefarm.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
They say you should learn something new every day. Like how you should only drink Jägermeister at 0 degrees Fahrenheit, ice cold. Like those frozen cavemen they find, which makes you wonder, what would a caveman think of Jägermeister? Well, if you served it warm, he'd probably throw it in your face, say, "Unga boonga," and storm off. And nobody wants that. So drink it cold or not at all. Jägermeister. Damn, that's cold. Drink responsibly. Jägermeister liqueur, 35% alcohol by volume, imported by Mast Jägermeister, U.S., White Plains, New York.
Ever feel like your brain just won't click? Onnit Alpha Brain is a daily supplement engineered to support memory, focus, and mental speed. Made with science-backed ingredients, Onnit Alpha Brain helps you lock in, tune out distractions, and stay sharp. See what your brain can really do. Visit onnit.com and shop Alpha Brain to unlock your next level. That's ONNIT.com.
It's crunch time at work, and you need to bring wings to your workday. Visit redbull.com/gettingitdone and answer a couple questions about your work style to get a Spotify customized playlist tuned to your productivity. Plus, score a can of Red Bull on us while you go from to-do to done. And remember, Red Bull gives you wings. Supplies are limited. Terms apply. Visit the website for more information.
Hey everybody, it's Weird Islanders, the podcast, back once again. My name is Dan. That is Mike. How are you today, Mike?
I'm doing good. This is an exciting one. Definitely the first time we've had a couple of guests on our show from different parts of this continent. We've had someone call in from Cop Car in Phoenix, from British Columbia, from other parts of Canada, and now we are talking to somebody from the other side of the world, a place that's near and dear to my heart as a fan, due to my and you're getting there now due to your blossoming love for cricket, my obsession with cricket and Aussie rules football. So this is an exciting one. We get to really sink our teeth into some fun stuff today.
Yeah, this is an interesting one for us. It's one we've wanted to do for a long time, and we once again get to talk to an actual former Islander. So I'll bring him on right now. He was a first-round pick, 16th overall by the San Jose Sharks in 2006. He played 26 career games in the NHL, including 21 for the Islanders from between 2011 and 2012. And he is currently a player for the Melbourne Mustangs of the Australian Ice Hockey League. He is Ty Wishart. Ty, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show, guys.
It's great to have you on. I had to make sure to say today because where you are, it is, in fact, the middle of the afternoon, whereas for us, it's nighttime.
Sunday afternoon here. So, yeah, beautiful sunny weather. Just enjoying this call from the beach.
Yeah, whereas we are at night in snowy northeastern United States. So we're going to talk about your hockey career in the NHL and all over the world. But we have to start with the most obvious question, and that is, how does a good hockey playing boy from Belleville, Ontario, end up in Melbourne playing for the Melbourne Mustangs of the Australian Ice Hockey League?
Yeah, it's probably a consequence of events, throughout my career. But I played in a charity tournament back in 2015. I'm out here, and we did kind of a tour across the country and raised a bunch of money for concussion awareness. So that kind of sparked a little bit of an interest. And then a friend of mine who I played with in the American League, and as actually my roommate back then, Chris Lawrence, got a coaching gig down here, and I was playing in Germany at the time with actually a teammate of mine now, Scott Timmons. He ended up coming down with us, and I was kind of getting near the end of my professional playing career, and I thought, you know what, it's a pretty good opportunity to bring the family down. A little 5-month vacation to round off the career, and coming up on 4 years now, we haven't left.
Wow, you have played all over the world. 10 countries, I think I read somewhere. And I think your final stop is, an interesting one for hockey fans, because I think most of us don't think of Australia as like a hockey playing nation. But like, what's the hockey scene like down there? I mean, the Mustangs are obviously part of. There's other teams in this Australian Ice Hockey League, and you've been there for a long time. So like, what's the fan sort of relationship like? What's the passion sort of like down there, and how does it compare to obviously the NHL, but also like juniors and playing in places like Sweden or Germany or wherever else you play?
The passion is definitely there. It's as good as anywhere else I've played. It is more of a niche sport down here. That's for sure. But it's growing. It's a growing sport, and thanks to the in the NHL coming down here a couple of years ago to play that game has really kind of raised a bit more awareness to the league. Yeah, like I said, the fans are fantastic here. Again, it's a smaller scale, like the rinks aren't as big, and but the fans are just as nuts about the sport as anywhere else I've played. So it's been a really enjoyable experience for myself and my family, and you get these Aussie guys are great teammates. So it's we're very lucky to be a part of it.
Whenever I talk to anybody from Australia or about Australia, they always talk about Australia, then Melbourne specifically being like an amazing sports town, and that people there they can't get enough of sport, whether it be the Australian Open's going on right now, then the cricket, which as I started at the top of the show, like I love cricket. Dan is starting to get into it. I was glued to the Ashes.
Yeah.
And I also watched quite a bit of Aussie football. Like, so what just generally, like, how have you felt about the sporting scene down there? Because I've heard from several people like that it just kind of wraps you up. Have you started to like get interested in other sports that they have kind of more ingrained in their culture?
Yeah, I mean, you get adopted into these footy team, which is like you said, Aussie rules football, and then you don't really have a choice. You get one team for the rest, and that's your identity going forward. But no, it's an incredibly passionate city. It's extremely eclectic in its sports. You have, I mean, they have 2 ice hockey teams down here, and a very sun-driven country. Like you mentioned, the AO is on right now, and what a fantastic event! It gets better every year. I think up to this point, it's just been training matches, and they've already had like 250,000 people roll through the grounds or something like that, and that's just the tournament just started today. So yeah, the amount of sports here, it is a culture here, and it's amazing. We love it here.
Who is your Aussie rules team?
I'm a Carleton guy now.
Carleton.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So that was friends from school are like, hey, do you guys have a team yet? No. Okay, here's some beanies, and you're taking our tickets for tonight's game, and that was it. That was the end of the conversation.
There you go. Yeah, the blue baggers. Yeah, that's great. That's it's I love it. So I actually think that Aussie rules reminds me a lot of hockey in that the whistle blows, for them the ball gets bounced, and then it's just chaos, and you're just like, people are clattering into one another for the next hour plus, and you're just like, holy hell, what is going on? And I feel like there's a lot of that controlled chaos in hockey and Aussie rules football.
Definitely, and I don't think people can appreciate the size of some of these guys and the athleticism they display. Some of these guys are running a half marathon every game.
Yeah.
And they're 6'7", 250 pounds, and they're running around like 150-pound soccer players. It's crazy.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
very
it's
funny.
it's a spectacle to watch,
Yeah.
and then I find that so funny that like that's the kind of like national like league sport, and then of course you got cricket, which is just
I've
the almost the
just
exact opposite.
just starting to come around to cricket. I had
Uh,
someone sit with me and explain the rules because when you first get down here, I really had a tough time calling it a sport when there's a tea break and a lunch break, and actually sitting with some people that explained the nuances to the game, especially those long 5-day test matches.
uh,
There's a lot of stuff going on that you wouldn't think about as an outsider to the sport.
Yeah, we are an Islanders podcast, but we've done I think 3 or 4 episodes on cricket. So
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
you're talking our language. It's
Okay.
I've said many times like everyone when you watch it, you start where you started, which is like I don't get this at all, and then you kind of have your aha moment. You're like, oh, this is actually kind of beautiful.
Yeah, definitely, and I can
Yeah.
see where the passion comes from. I originally I just assumed it was an excuse for husbands to get away from their wives for 5 days, but I'm realizing there's a lot more to it.
Yeah, Mike got me watching it on Amazon Prime, and we have a bonus show we do for our Patreon where we had a friend of ours on who is an Englishman from Leeds, and so he was big into the English cricket team that unfortunately face planted pretty hard against the Aussies there very quickly.
Yeah.
So we keep Mike on the rails here, and we keep. What was the scene like when the Aussies basically took the Ashes over very early, and England just really had no chance, but they still had to keep playing like 3 games or 3 matches.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. And I was sitting. The guy that sat with me was a Brit. And he was devastated. And
Yeah.
as a hopefully a future Aussie here, I was pretty happy about it, even through his misery. Even though he took the time to explain the nuances to me.
Sounds good. Well, Long Islanders were introduced to cricket for some of the test matches that were there last year. So hopefully it's created some new cross section of cricket fans and Islanders fans. But let's get back to hockey. Of course, I got to ask you though one more Mustangs question, and we'll get back to here in a few minutes too. But like, you're also the director of hockey operations and a player. How does that work?
So I actually
All
passed
right.
it. I passed it on to the guy who's running it now, Johnny Moses, who's got a little bit slightly more time. He's still a very busy man, but he has slightly more time. I mean, I've got 3 young kids, and and now I have a big people's job. So I have to kind of pick and choose. But it was great. I was a director when we won the championship a couple years ago, and
Yeah.
so it was definitely different. I guess juggling the transition, trying to be part of the team, but as well as making some pretty big decisions outside of the rink. And it was a really good learning experience for me. So it was I really did enjoy it. I just think it would be something maybe after I stop playing, I'd like to dive back into again.
That's pretty cool. Well, it doesn't seem like you're ready to stop playing anytime soon. So, so we'll have to see about that. But like I said, you were drafted in the first round, 16th overall by the Sharks in 2006. By the way, Belleville, Ontario, also the birthplace of first Islanders captain Eddie Westfall.
Okay.
Alan Quine, who we also did an episode of this show on. Rick Green, who I'd love to do an episode on, and a guy named Brad Richardson, who never played for the Islanders but scored the first goal at UBS Arena, which is I thought kind of funny.
Okay.
Yeah, but so you went 16. You were the second defenseman chosen in that draft behind Eric Johnson, who went first overall. That's pretty high. Did you know you were going to get picked 16th that year? I mean, did you expect to go that high in the first round?
I was kind of touted to be in that first round. I had no idea what position that would be. And I had, obviously you do the combine, you go through all that, you have the, interview with, I think I interviewed with, 28 out of the 30 teams at the time. You had some vibes, and I had originally thought that Montreal was going to take me, and then, because they were in that 16th slot.
Right.
And then they traded for, I can't remember what they traded to. San Jose traded up to get the pick. And so I just kind of sat down and relaxed. I was like, okay, I've got, got another hour to wait before they even maybe get close to my name. It was pretty shocking. And, obviously my family was there. I was really lucky. It was in Vancouver. We were living on Vancouver Island at the time. So
Oh
that
wow.
was really, really special. But yeah, it was such a great experience for me, especially, you never know, like those top guys pretty much have an idea. But it's those, those middle first to middle second, they could be kind of one or the other. Right. So
Right.
no, it was a really, really good experience for me.
It's cool to have like everybody around and see who get drafted. And yeah, that pick, the pick that the Sharks used to draft you ended up going to the Canadians. They used a couple of picks there. But I was looking at this draft and like there were 10 guys in that first round that played over 1,000 games. Some guys are still playing now. Claude Giroux and Nick Fotiu are still playing. Nick Fotiu, Nick Foligno are still playing now. Like that's pretty wild. I don't know. And you're still playing, obviously, where you're playing now too. I mean, is just something about that draft class? I mean, do you ever keep in touch with any of the guys that were drafted that year? Because I mean, it seems like a pretty special class.
Yeah, like to be honest, not too much, but I mean, I
Mhm.
remember Felino in the combine. We did the Wingate side by side, and both of us are throwing up in a garbage can afterwards. But no, some of those guys, I'm still playing, but those guys to keep up that level, um, I don't think people realize the dedication and the hard work away from the ice that it takes to play that long at such a high level. It's just, I mean, those guys are insane, and it's
Mhm.
again, it starts off the ice, which as a younger man was probably my issue, probably the whole time until I got a little bit older and
Mhm.
pulled my head out of the sand. But as it is for a lot of guys, and it's yeah, but those guys are definitely special.
Yeah, so you were drafted by the Sharks, and you end up getting dealt to Tampa Bay relatively soon thereafter. As someone who's you hadn't I'm sure you went to a bunch of camps and whatever, but you hadn't stepped on the ice outside of the AHL with the Sharks yet, and you're dealt. What was that experience like? Getting the call and being like, we're shipping you to Tampa.
It was definitely shocking, and I probably played it off like it wasn't as a big deal as it was. And probably I didn't have the tools to actually cope with it, but it is part of the game, and you tell yourself that, but it definitely stings a little. And I had a conversation with Tim Burke, was the director of scouting for San Jose at the time, and he was pretty upset because he was one of the big part of me being drafted, but when you look at the guys they got in, it's like, it's hard to argue those
Yeah.
Right.
guys. And Len Barry, he had that brief stint in Tampa Bay, who was a big part of the trade for me to go there. And I think I was the only guy from Vancouver Island at the time um, that was kind of in the mix. So I think speaking to him afterwards, he was, we wanted to get an island guy in. So um, I definitely felt wanted when I got there, but it was definitely a bit of a shock, and I probably would have handled things differently if I had a little bit more maturity on my side.
Mhm. This trade actually is fascinating on a few levels. So it was July 4th. You got traded on a couple of holidays. We'll talk about the next one to the
Yeah,
Islanders in a minute. But so it was July 4th, 2008. You got traded by San Jose with a first round pick to the Lightning and two other picks for former Weird Islander Brad Lukowich, who we want to
yeah,
hopefully have on the
yeah,
show, and what I'm calling a spiritual Weird Islander in Dan Boyle, who
yeah,
was acquired by the Islanders and then just didn't want to play here. So he just took off. So he's kind of a weird Islander, but it's more of a spiritual weird Islander.
yeah.
But more importantly, that first round pick that the Sharks sent to the Lightning got bounced around a lot, ended up in Anaheim's. It went from Ottawa to the Islanders to the Columbus Blue Jackets to Anaheim, who used it to select Kyle Palmieri. So
Oh yeah,
in a
yeah.
way, a lot of Islanders all over the place here. But your first NHL game came with the Lightning. You played 5 games in 08, 09. This was I thought a pretty good team back then. There was still a lot of this was in the old Southeast Division. The Lightning didn't really have a great. This was the Barry Melrose, Rick Tocchet season. What was your first game like? How'd that happen? You get the call up, and was it a shock to you to get the call up? And I guess you were playing for at Norfolk at the time. and got called up. What was that all like?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, that's every kid's dream is to get that call. Yeah, I flew in and I think it was against Carolina. And yeah, obviously you have a lot of nerves, a lot of emotions. The guys were so great bringing me into the locker room. Mike Smith and Vinny LeCavier, two of the veteran guys there.
Nice.
Were just, they just, treated me like gold. So, can't thank them enough. And it was a quick trip. It was an emergency call up. I think I was probably to save a couple bucks there for them, but I was up and then out after the game. They didn't need a guy, so it was a quick whirlwind of a trip, and but so exciting. You get out there. I was playing with Merrick Malik at the time, and that first shift, you're just your heart's racing, and once you take that first hit or make that first pass, you're like, okay, I can do this, and then you kind of settle back into your rhythm, right? So
right, yeah.
I mean, it's every kid's dream to have that experience, and I was very, very lucky to have it.
That's really cool.
And then so from there, fast forward just a little bit, and you're traded again, as Dad said, on another holiday. Before we go into the trade and the reaction to it, at the time, the Islanders they're in maybe their third cycle of being a circus, there or maybe coming out of it. What were your growing up, playing in the NHL, playing in the AHL? What were your kind of thoughts about the Islanders beforehand? Did you ever even think of them? What had you heard about them around the league? Anything like that? Because I mean, as we said, at the time, it was a bit messy here.
Yeah, it was, and even in the American League when I got there, I think Cappy just got called. I think he, getting called up, I guess, as a coach. But so he was gone when I got to the American to Bridgeport there. And honestly, that one was a bit of a shock because it was mid-season. I didn't have any communication that they were possibly thinking about it. So that was a bit shocking to me. I probably would have liked, just a, hey, heads up, we're potentially might be doing this, just to give a kid, because we were on the road. We were in Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, and that was a little shocking when the team left on the bus and you're sitting there holding your suitcase. So that was a little tough. But when I got to Bridgeport. Again, great group of guys. We had, not a whole lot of success there, and there was a little bit of a turmoil, but I also took it as an opportunity that, this might be a really good chance that I can get some games up and, eventually ended up playing the rest of the season there.
That's really cool. So, I mean, you talked about getting traded for guys like Dan Boyle and Brad Lukowicz, but in this case, you were traded for Dwayne Rollison.
I know. Big time. I felt felt flattered, yeah. Definitely flattered.
That's my question. What does it feel like?
Good for us.
I mean, just a couple of years earlier, this guy's in the Cup final. He would take the Lightning to the Eastern Conference final. That's a big deal. Right? Yeah.
That's always, it's a big joke. My trade card's better than my playing card, but it's it was definitely holy crap, straight up. So, you definitely feel wanted in that situation. So that's why, like I said, I thought I was going to get a good opportunity and a good shake, and I did. And thanks to Garth Snow up there giving me a chance, and he had a lot of words of wisdom while I was there, and again, probably could have handled myself away from the ice a little better than I did, but you live and you learn.
And now a word from our sponsors. VintageIceHockey.com. Over 100 classic hockey logos on t-shirts, jerseys, hats, mugs, and more. Long Island Ducks, Albany Riverettes, Danbury Trashers, Kentucky Thoroughblades, and so many more. Plus a full line of Islanders Anxiety merch with our portion of the sales going directly to the Center for Dementia Research. These incredible items cannot be found in stores, so shop VintageIceHockey.com today. Relax, sit back, and enjoy wine from The Pinot Project. Rosé, Pinot Grigio, or a Pinot Noir that was named a Best Buy by Wine Enthusiast magazine. These wines are delicious, affordable, and available at area wine shops and at UBS Arena. Learn more at thepinoproject.com. And please, drink responsibly. You would play 20 games for the Islanders in 2010, 2011. This was a favorite season of ours. We talk about this season a lot. But in looking over your playing career and stuff, I noticed that this is the second season or the second team on which you played with Zenon Konopka, a guy we love here, a guy who really endeared himself, as Mike was saying before. The Islanders are in kind of a weird spot here. A lot of times people don't want to come here. Dan Boyle being one of them, like that. It's they're kind of a bit of a circus. But Konopka really he endeared himself to Islanders fans by one time yelling at TSN because they called them. They said some not so nice things about the Islanders, and he yelled at them, said that we're an up and coming team. We love that kind of stuff. Was that indicative of the kind of player he was? Obviously we know he was a good fighter and all that. Was he a real sort of leader in the locker room, like a rah-rah, grab everybody by the collar and let's go out there and do this kind of guy?
Yeah, Z's a special person. He does get those fans on his side right away because he does do things like that, and he's so. I don't think I've actually met someone more passionate about. I think everything, not just the game, of hockey, but I think that was definitely his vessel to show that passion, and that's why people love him. I had a couple experiences with Z. Obviously he was my captain my rookie year in the American League in Norfolk, and speaking of grabbing guys by the neck, I remember I can't remember what it was. We had a big night out with the guys, and back then we were allowed. We had keys to the locker room so we could go in. And we lived out on Virginia Beach, which was, quite the drive. So sometimes, the occasional time you'd crash at the rink after a big night. And I remember one morning I wake up, Z's knees on my chest, and he's like, "Are you kidding me? We're in, I don't know, I can't remember what place we're in. I'm like, we all went out last night. What are you talking about? I'm just, come on." And just the passion he showed, but it definitely pushes you as a teammate because we were, I can't remember how many points out of playoffs that year, and only a limited amount of games. I think we had to win out maybe, and he still had that bit of a FU attitude about him, So he definitely gets guys behind him. And then when I got to New York again, obviously being former teammates, I knew him pretty well, so obviously you gravitate towards those guys when you get to a new team, and same thing. He treated me like gold, and pushed me to do better. And he was actually a part of that tournament that came down to Australia when I came down. So we've played a few things together, and he's just a really special person and great for the sport.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Dan and I were at a game. The Islanders were playing against your other former team, the Lightning, this season, and they had a bunch of alumni in the building, including Zenon Konopka. So it was good to see him again, and he got a great pop. 15 years later from his one season, so people still talk about him. He I don't know if you would remember this, but one of the most famous bits of lore about him and that team that year was that him and P.A. Parento adopted a bunny rabbit.
Oh yeah, they were just I remember
that. And I don't know how that got out, but the travails of Hoppy were followed by both the fans as well, and I think that's part of what that season, that team, kind of why it speaks to us. Though there was not that much success on the ice, but that team did have a bit of a chip on his shoulder and took some pride in being an Islander, and that was the first team in a long time where that was actually the case, and he was a huge part of it. Obviously, guys like Mark Streit, etc. But what was it like going to a team? You go to a team like Tampa where there's guys like Vinny Lecavalier, and they're not too far removed from winning the cup. There's some serious, panache in that locker room. There's some kind of heavyweights, and then you get to a team like the Islanders where it was, there were some promising young players. Obviously, John Tavares was there. Even though he skedaddled on us, Kyle Poso, etc. So it was there were some promising young players, but it was in a transition phase. So what was the difference between walking into a room like that where it's you might be just starting your NHL career, but so is everybody else?
Yeah, that's it, right? You have you definitely feel like there's less of a hierarchy in that locker room. It's more of a collaborative. Whereas when you get to those teams that have done really well for a long time, they have those big names. You definitely, as someone new, you're a little more intimidated. Where this one, it was really it was a team, right? I think even our song was Little Lion Man, and you know. Um, it's it was awesome to be a part of, and I wish it continued, but that's what it is. I mean, a couple of the boys obviously spent a really long time. Speaking about some good young guys, you had Marty there for so many years. Zeker's still kicking and doing amazing. So that the American League team there in Bridgeport was a really special group as well. Even though we didn't do well as far as playoffs go, but there was a lot of really good young players in that. You got Brock Nelson, Calvin DeHaan, and all these guys that have had really good careers that were just starting out at that time as well.
We're gonna get to your first goal in a minute, but your original call up, so February 5th, 2011, you get called up to the Islanders, and it's a home game against Ottawa. Islanders win 5-3. You have 2 assists in this game. I completely forgot about this.
Yeah.
That's a pretty auspicious beginning.
It was a hot start.
Yeah, exactly. Very hot start. What was the experience like getting called up that first game? I mean, you already played a little bit in Bridgeport, I guess, for about a month or so, and you got called up, and then immediately had 2 assists. Like, I mean, what do you remember about the game? And like the whole day probably feels like a whirlwind.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know what it was about Ottawa that year, because I think when we went up there, I had a couple assists as well. But they just were nice to me. I remember feeling pretty good after I got the first one, and then the second one was just a gift, right? You're just riding that high, and you feel pretty good after that game, that's for sure. And the guys, they're all congratulating you, and you definitely feel like it was brought into the team right away when you have a game like that.
Right. It was a 6-goal first period between both clubs, and you assist on a Michael Grabner goal, and then you had an assist on a Rob Schremp goal. That's
Robbie Schremp. Amazing. There you go. Yeah. And Grabner. Can you imagine how many goals that guy would have had that year if he could? I think he was 20% on breakaways.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We remember. We remember. Definitely.
I think he had like 3 a game that year.
Yeah. It seemed like it. Yeah, he was the fastest guy we had ever seen.
Yeah.
But that's a perfect transition, because the game in which you scored your first NHL goal, and this is the kind of stuff I love to find out when I do research for this show, it was in one of my favorite games of this era. This game we've talked about a lot on this show. I will never forget where I was. I will never forget watching this game. Was a 7-6 overtime win in Buffalo, which is already, just that line there is insane. Grabner had a hat trick. Al Montoya got his first win with the Islanders. This was a year when there was tons of new people, including yourself. You scored your first NHL goal in this game. It's one of the 7 that the Islanders had.
Weber can't get it out. Still battling along the wall, but it comes back to Wishart. Wishart will swing it across to Ursina, now to Wishart again. His screen shot is scored! And deflected in front of the net, and the Islanders with another power play goal have regained the lead.
And 2 power play goals puts the Islanders in front. I don't know who tipped it, but
it goes off Ryan's glove. You see he's going to make the save, but it bounces off him and then hits Morrison into the net. He wasn't able to control that shot.
And so the Islanders, who have not led since early in the game, are in front now.
This has to be, I mean, you've played a lot of games. You played over 800 games internationally all over the place. Like, where does this rank on the all-time most memorable games in your career? It's got to be pretty high, not just because of the goal, but just like the sheer insanity of this game. I don't know. I won't forget it. And I was literally sitting in my house watching it. For you, this must be crazy.
It's one of those games where you're just like, the highs and lows,
right?
Were just nuts, right? As far as the goal, like, I don't know if have you watched the video?
I have it.
I didn't know until I didn't know I had scored until the boys started skating out at me.
I was gonna say because you went first down the line down the bench, so I was like, oh, he definitely knew he scored there.
Yeah,
But I guess not.
only because the guys are screaming at me.
Yeah.
Because it was, when you're walking the line and you're kind of going out against those forecheckers, you don't always, you kind of got to protect yourself after you release those shots. And yeah, so I had looked away. I just assumed that one of the boys tipped it in front, and no, they came out screaming at me. So that was obviously very, very exciting. Yeah, and again, in a game like that where you're just like, oh, back and forth, what's going on here? It was exciting. Yeah, definitely exciting.
It was a power play goal too. With
I don't know how I got on there. I must have snuck out there.
well, I'll say this: you were on the power play running the point with Milan Jurčina, and I don't know how Milan Jurčina was out there either. So
yeah, but you remember his shot? Holy crap.
Juice, yeah, he was something, man. He was a beast. He's another one he's kind of around every once in a while for alumni stuff. You start to see Juice walking around.
Yeah. Man, no one wants to stand in front of that one timer. My goodness, that guy.
But I also, the other thing that was super memorable about this game wasn't just the hat trick, wasn't just the 7-6 win, wasn't just the performances by Al Montoya. It's that the Islanders had really, after Capuano had taken over as coach, the Islanders had started to gain a lot of traction. They had a terrible November. They made a bunch of changes. A bunch of new guys came in. All of a sudden, they started gaining a lot of momentum. And this, I remember being just before this game was another memorable game, the fight night game against the Penguins. You weren't in that game.
No.
I don't know if you watched it.
I was in the stands. I was there. I was there. That was a tough one. That was a tough one to watch, because I was actually I actually got healthy scratch for both those games. I was in Pittsburgh riding the bike when Ricky came in, actually.
Oh man.
So I was still in the dressing room, just, riding the bike, watching the game on the TVs in there. And then I was like, oh my goodness. Then Ricky came in the room, and then a bunch of other guys started coming in the room. And then obviously that next game was pretty wild. I mean, I was living with Mike Haley in Bridgeport when we both got called up, obviously. So we were roommates before, and then, you see him go out there, and, you see Goddard jump off the bench, and he's fighting two guys that are much, much bigger than he is. And, that's that guy was another great team. You talk about Z being a great teammate, but, Haley was up there as well. He would go out there and fight a guy, 8 inches taller than him, and, and win. And he was always protecting his teammates and putting them first. Didn't matter what happened to himself in the fight, as long as he got in the fight, right? And that's why those guys are beloved in the locker room as well, right? Yeah, that was a pretty wild little stint there, wasn't it?
Yeah. That's I mean, we've talked about that game so many times. I've watched video from that game so many times. I watched that game actually very close. I went to school in Bridgeport. I went to college in Bridgeport, and I was at a bar on a golf course at the time that my friend bartended at, and the place was basically closed, like watching that game, and just none of us could believe what we were seeing. And obviously it's a healthy scratch. You're supposed to kind of keep a, no cheering in the press box kind of way about you, but like, what is going on in your head when you're watching this unfold from not only, and I want to ask about the Coliseum in a little bit, but like you're watching this, the fangs are out from everybody, and you can't like start hooting and hollering.
But you do, though, like it's, I don't know, there's you gotta be a robot not to, especially when guys are getting into fights that aren't necessarily big fighters. I know Hamonic threw his weight around, but he it wasn't known for his scrapping by any means. And he's going out there and chucking the mitts as a really young guy.
Josh Bailey.
Yeah, Bales, exactly, same thing. And those types of things really bring a team together. And I don't know if you've had anybody on the podcast talk about the Gill train in that instance, but he kind of got dragged through the mud a little bit there by the media, and how he fought a guy and he was out cold and he's screaming from the corner. But what, I don't know, maybe you've talked about this, but this is something that I spoke to him about afterwards, and it was actually the trainer that he was yelling at, because the trainer was calling him a meathead. He wasn't yelling at the kid on the ice, and
Right.
but obviously the optics of it looked horrible. But so just to set the record straight for the Gill train, he's definitely wasn't screaming at a kid on the ice. He was yelling at the trainer there.
And he's another guy who's beloved here because, hey, he's not gonna score many goals or anything, but he sure as hell took a lot of pride in being an Islander at a time that we were kind of desperate for guys like that. And one thing that I mean, we talk about this game a lot, but one thing I don't think that's ever been asked or talked about in the articles and videos and deep dives done about it is like, what was like the hour right after the game like in that locker room? Like what the hell is going on when that just happened and you guys are all like staring one another in the eye and being like, holy shit.
Well, I mean, you got personalities in the locker room like Gillies, like Z. What do you think it was like? It was, everything, there, because those guys are obviously, just pumping up the guys that don't fight very often. Just giving kudos to everybody else and not taking any for themselves. It was just excitement, so it was, it was, Again, wish I had my gear on for it though. That would have been really cool.
Right. Well, I mean, but no, I'm glad you mentioned like the excitement and pumping guys up because, like I said, the reason I bring this up is because, like, the Islanders were in a playoff push at this point. That ultimately, obviously they didn't make the playoffs, but like this was some of the most exciting hockey that we had seen in a long time. This was like, I guess, the third or fourth year of this rebuild. And did you guys have the feeling of a team that was like, we can do this, we can make the playoffs, we can keep it hot and keep going? Like, again, there was a lot of new faces there, but you all seem to really come together. And I mean, the way you talk about those guys, it seems like you're all pretty tight. Like, did you have that feeling that like, we can do this, we can make the playoffs?
Yeah, it was definitely talked about. You watch the standings so closely, you're following other teams in that situation, right? And we never had a give up moment in that locker room,
Right.
which was really, really special to be a part of again. It was just you have that underdog mentality, and it's you because you don't necessarily have all the big names. I mean, we had some really good players in the team, obviously.
Right.
There's some pretty big names there, but you definitely have to work together to get the goal. And unfortunately, we did fall a little bit short, but there was never a give up moment on that team.
Yeah, no, didn't sound like that was definitely not the makeup of that team, that's for sure. So the team misses the playoffs. You re-signed with the Islanders that off season, but you spent mostly 2011, 2012 with Bridgeport.
Gets hit down from behind along the left wing side. A big hit there by Greiba. Open now in the slot. It's Wishart holding, shooting. He scores! Ty Wishart wristing it home. He was wide open at the hash marks, and he picks up a huge goal, his second of the season, and it puts the Sound Tigers back on top by 2 with 4:23 to play.
What was that experience like too? Unfortunately for Mike and I, and on our podcast, our main podcast, Islanders Anxiety, we don't spend a ton of time talking about Bridgeport Sound Tigers at this point, and the Bridgeport Islanders now. But like, what was your experience playing for them? I know that there's a lot of guys have a lot of good feelings about playing in that club too. Like you mentioned some of the guys you played with before, but do you have like good memories of playing there in Bridgeport?
I do, and that year we had Ricky came down and played with us for most of the season. Gillies was there with us for most of the season, so I actually sat between those two guys in the locker room. So it was
fun.
But it was always interesting. But and again, we had so many up and coming good young players. Our rookies that year were fantastic. I think that was the year where you had Cizikas, you had Nelson, you had DeHaan. A bunch of these guys that ended up having amazing careers. So we had a really good experience with that team as well. It was a great place to play. Had a great fan base. It was a great rink, and you just always enjoy. It's nice when you enjoy coming to the locker room.
Yeah, it sounds like a really fun group of guys to hang out with. And we were just fans, and we liked hanging out with them.
Protein is now at Starbucks, and it's never tasted so good. You can add protein cold foam to your favorite drink or try one of our new protein lattes or matcha.
Try it today at Starbucks.
So good, so good, so good.
New spring arrivals are at Nordstrom Rack stores now. Get ready to save big with up to 60% off Rag & Bone, Marc Jacobs, Free People, and more.
How did I not know Rack has Adidas?
Because there's always something new.
Join the Nordy Club to unlock exclusive discounts, shop new arrivals first, and more. Plus, buy online and pick up at your favorite Rack store for free. Great brands, great prices. That's why you Rack.
K-pop Demon Hunters Haja Boys breakfast meal and Huntrix meal have just dropped at McDonald's. They're calling this a battle for the fans. What do you say to that, Rumi?
It's not a battle. So glad the Saja Boys could take breakfast and give our meal the rest of the day.
It is an honor to share.
No, it's our honor.
It is a larger honor.
No, really. Stop.
You can really feel the respect in this battle. Pick a meal to pick a side.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
At participating McDonald's while supplies last.
If we knew more about our sleep, what would we do differently? Would we go to bed at a consistent time or take steps to reduce interruptions to our sleep? With Sleep Score, Apple Watch measures your bedtime consistency, interruptions, and sleep duration. Then, every morning it combines these factors into an easy-to-understand score from 1 to 100. So you'll know how to take the quality of your sleep from okay to very high. Know your sleep score with Apple Watch. iPhone 11 or later required.
Start your day with Quaker Protein Instant Oatmeal. The instant oatmeal ready to help you tackle whatever your day brings. Like wrangling your toddler into their car seat. That was fun. Coaching your 6th graders soccer team. Go girls! And carrying all the groceries in one trip. Whew. Try Quaker Protein Instant Oatmeal, granola, and bars. Great taste and a good source of protein. Quaker, bring out the good.
Unfortunately, after 153 games with Bridgeport, the Islanders waived you in 2013. But in a way, while your NHL career sort of ended at this point, your globetrotting hockey career was just getting started. And you went to go play for the Schwenninger Wild Wings in Germany. And this is where you also played in the Douglas Weber Cup, which you were mentioning before, the charity event played between Canada and the U.S. and Australia. You've obviously been in Australia now for a long time, but like, what was it like going there for that tournament? I mean, was there already a surprise sort of hockey fan base in Australia in the mid 2000s that you didn't really know about and you kind of found out about during this tournament?
Well, I mean, I think they did a fantastic job at marketing it. I think they might have inflated the level or the caliber of the guys that they were bringing down a little bit. So I think when we showed up that first year for the tournament, they had expected, the 36 best players in the world, so it was, so we, you get out to Perth and they've got a big stadium out there. So we were playing in front of, 18,000 people. I think there was 20 in Sydney. We played at Rod Laver in Melbourne, which is where the Australian Open is. So you're playing in front of these really big crowds, and yeah, they were passionate. Again, it's a sporting nation, and so if there's a sport, you're going to get fans for it. And it was really well put on. They definitely took care of us, and it was a lot of fun, but it was definitely surprising to see the fan base there was.
That's really, really cool. Maybe we should start thinking of Australia as, a hockey nation, because they're an all sports nation, like you said. You would come back to Australia, but you also played in Germany, Sweden, Slovakia, Czechia, Austria, all over Europe. And we'll get back to Australia in a minute, but like I don't need to drag you through all of these different places. But like, do you have a favorite country that you played in? Something that really surprised you in terms of like how much you enjoyed it, how much you enjoyed playing for the team, how much you enjoyed living in the city, that kind of thing?
Yeah, no, definitely. I've got some really amazing experiences. Obviously, spent a decade in Europe. Czech Republic and Pardubice was a really special time. Obviously, I had my daughter there, so that was obviously a big moment and kind of changed things as far as life goes. And that town was amazing. The fan base was amazing, and definitely had an amazing experience there. Kermanshah, I spent a few years there. and the fan base there was nuts. You know, it wasn't the biggest arena, but not the biggest town, but you know, there was something to it. You know, when you can have a town of 15,000 people and 4,000 or 5,000 are showing up to the games is really really special. And then my son was born there, so you know, you have. I mean, we have such great memories from almost everywhere we played, and you know, we were just very, very lucky to be able to do that and do it for so long. I think that was really really amazing, and you know, who doesn't want to travel and play hockey, right?
Right. Yeah. Is what I mean. You had some as Dan said, some interesting stops. Like what, including Romania. Like what was like the maybe the like the most eye opening thing for someone you've obviously seen the heights of the NHL. You got to play in the illustrious Nassau Coliseum. Like, what was maybe the most surprising thing you saw during your globetrotting there through Europe?
I love the Coliseum, by the way, but
Of course.
yeah, Romania was a bit of a wrinkle in the plan. It was the COVID year. Wasn't sure where I was gonna go, and I kind of waited a little bit longer. And then my agent at the time came through with this contract, and which was surprising. And it was kind of like, okay, let's try it out. And you know, we walked in, and there was a bunch of imports, a bunch of guys that I had known from, you know, the junior era, like Colton Yellowhorn and Judd Blackwater, and all these guys that, you know, I played against in junior and have known throughout the years were on the team. You know, and yeah, I mean, it was a special team. We ended up winning the league that year, and it was a little weird because it was COVID, so there's no fans in the building. So felt a little different than the other championships I've won. So, but it was a really cool team, and it was a good experience.
Cool. And yeah, I mean, we've talked about it a bit now. Before we dive into what you're currently doing in Australia. Yeah, wax about the Coliseum a little bit. We obviously loved it. The Coliseum was maybe my favorite place on the entire planet. What was your experience like playing at Nassau Coliseum?
You know, it was amazing. You know, it's got you know, obviously a rich history of hockey there, and you know, when I was living there, I was living at the Marriott, so it was right across the parking lot.
Another legendary place. Yeah.
You know, it was in my backyard, so I spent a lot of time there, and you know, it was. I mean, I think, to be honest, I don't think it matters what NHL arena you're in. It's going to be special no matter what, because it's an NHL arena, and you're there for work and what you're passionate about.
Yeah, we love hearing stories about guys who play at the Coliseum, because we hear so much from people who kind of parachute in from various, you know, media organizations or whatever, that they like to just kind of shit on it. And
well, were you guys around for the? Were you guys around that summer after the year? Because I spent a lot of time there that summer.
Oh yeah,
just training with the guys. But we had that
the referendum
concert that I think, I can't remember who was playing in it, but we had that concert, and there was myself, Ricky. I think maybe Molson was there as well.
Was that the Blue Oyster Cult concert?
Yes, yeah,
that's right.
So yeah, we had to get up, and I think there's a few thousand people there for that. You know, kind of getting money to raise to either put a new rink where the Coliseum was, or you know, obviously didn't work out that way, but you know, it was fun being a part of that.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I remember that push. It was very exciting. Like, the team was exciting. They were having a referendum to like get a new Coliseum. Blue Oyster Cult was there. I think Joan Jett might have been there too, and it was very exciting. And you know, when the referendum didn't pass, it was pretty dark. When Mike and I talk a lot about how, like, you know, it's one thing to have a team that might not be that good. It's another to like not know where the team is going to be the next year. Like, that's kind of the reality that we lived in for a long time. Like, does that, while we're on that subject, I mean, as a player, you know, you're contracted, you could be playing in Bridgeport, but like, were those concerns for real for you guys? Like, we don't, what's going to happen to us? Like, is the team going to move? Is it like, you know, are we going to have a place to play next year?
You know, I think it was probably a little more on the minds of guys that were there full time, but you know, I wouldn't. You know, at that point, it doesn't matter where you're playing. You know, you're playing in the NHL, so it's. You know, unfortunately, you know, the bill didn't get passed, and you know, there's no new rink, but you know, wouldn't matter. They moved to Brooklyn for a couple of years there, and you know, I heard good things about that stadium. Obviously a little bit different, but yeah, it wasn't definitely wasn't on the forefront of my mind. It was like, as long as I get a
Mm.
shot, I don't care where it is.
We loved Barclays Center because the games were really cheap and it was just a subway ride away. I don't know about the players, but
Yeah.
we definitely did. But yeah, so you've been in Australia for a while now. You finally settled there playing with the Mustangs. And as I mentioned before, you're not just a player, that you were an executive for a while there. You guys won the championship in 2023 and you were the team's second leading scorer. You know, you had 60 points in 23 games. That's crazy. And so that's why it's funny, like when you're like, oh, I'd like to get into management when the playing career is over. I don't know, numbers like that don't make me think that your playing career is any close to being over, although obviously, it's up to you. Like, what are your feelings now playing? You said your family's growing. Like, how many more years do you want to keep doing this, and then you're going to get into management or maybe something else?
Yeah. To be honest, I'm not sure. I'm kind of on that precipice at the moment, whether or not to keep going. It's not as easy, to pull yourself up after games
Sure.
anymore. And but also the life. Like I said, it is a full season. We do travel. There's eight weekends where you're spending away. My family is growing and my kids are young, so it's getting harder to manage that with work as well as the game.
Sure.
So I think it'll be more to do with that than the body holding up. I think I've been obviously very, very, very fortunate to get by with as little long-term damage as possible. But it's still, again, it's I saw that my buddy sent this to me the other day. It's like, oh, you're still playing in your I think it was late 30s or early 40s. Your body must feel amazing. And then it cuts to a clip of Deadpool trying to put himself back together.
Yeah.
This is a little more accurate.
Right.
And I mean, it's obviously Australia is a gigantic country, and you are traveling. Like, what is the travel like going from like you're traveling to Perth, which is
Yeah, it's basically California to New York, right?
exactly
So.
yeah. So like, how are you getting there? What are like the accommodations like? And because it's not to disparage the league, but it's I'm sure it's not as well funded as a lot of the other leagues in Australia.
No, and a lot of the, almost all of our funding comes from our sponsors, and we're very fortunate to have amazing sponsors with us. But without them, we wouldn't be able to do these things. And we do fly to all our away games, which is really nice. But you can't really take a bus for
Right.
30 hours to get to Perth, right? So. We are very fortunate to have really good sponsors that support us, and we are able to do those things. Are we staying at 5-star hotels? No, absolutely not. But again, it's a lot of these guys have families, and to get away for a weekend with the team and spend some time with the guys, it's kind of like a recharge.
Well, and I mean, I think about this a lot with the AFL too. Like those teams, like in Perth or Fremantle out there on the West Coast, like they're the Perth Thunder are the only team on the west side of Australia in the league, so they're just flying across the country every other weekend to
yeah,
play games?
They have a pretty horrible schedule. Yeah, so I know they try to every weekend's a doubleheader kind of thing. So they try to knock off those as much as possible just to save costs. And I think there is I don't know for sure, but I believe there's a kind of a pool sharing to help them out, because obviously they're flying a little bit more than most.
Right.
So yeah, but they definitely are on an island out there.
But I mean, I guess it's all done like people like yourself, like for love of the sport. Like you love playing the sport, so you'll do this and you'll keep doing it. It's like I assume that the passion level is pretty high for players in the Aussie Ice Hockey League, because you wouldn't be doing this otherwise.
Yeah, it's definitely a passion. They're not they're not paying the bills with ice hockey, so it's definitely a hobby, and
right.
they do it for the love of the game, and it's difficult because everyone has jobs, and to rock up, we train at night, so to rock up at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday to get on the ice is not after a long day of work. It's not the easiest thing to do.
I can imagine, yeah. Yeah, I found a video of you from 2024, sort of a day in the life of you down in Australia playing for, and it shows you, coming back from the job and your family going shopping and everything.
Have you found the switch to driving on the right side?
At first, it was a little bit shocking. I remember being in the car with our president, John, and he went to make a turn through an intersection, and I just about had a heart attack. I thought he was driving into traffic.
And it was very cute. I thought it was very, very well done. I thought it was really interesting that like you're bringing your stuff to the locker room, and it's like super early in the morning, and one of the bags you have is still an Islanders bag. And
Yeah,
like,
you
that's
gotta,
the one thing I
keep a
kept.
little piece of history with me. I think that's the only
Right.
thing I've actually held on to throughout my career. It's I'm sure my dad has a tracksuit somewhere floating around in his closet, but yeah, for some reason I think just kind of held on to that one as a bit of a keepsake for me. But yeah, I still
Right.
still travel with it.
That's really, really cool. And I liked seeing that because I feel like that shows that it was short. It was 21 games, 1 goal, 4 assists, 5 points for the Islanders, plus the five games you played for the Lightning, obviously. But it was a short time, but you obviously still have very fond memories of playing for the Islanders. And we love to see that. And that's why kind of what we do this show, because it's amazing how even with this little amount of time, you can forge a connection with this team and still carry these great memories. I'm sure your kids are probably going to be like, what the hell are the New York Islanders? And you have to explain, well,
Yeah, well, if we stay here too long, they're going to start asking what hockey is. So
yeah. But yeah, when you think of your time on the island, what do you think about?
It was great. I was, a young kid, living, just outside New York City, which, is a dream for a lot of people. I didn't, it was a time where, you didn't have any responsibilities, and, you had a great group of kids, or a great group of guys that were in the locker room with me every day. And, you say it's cool to see that, but, it was the first team that, really gave me a shot, and, they gave me, more than, up and down game to show what I had. And, again, unfortunately it didn't work out for longer term, but, that's how it goes in sports. And, I had a lot of lessons to learn along the way. And I think they kind of really started in New York. A few of those lessons. And I think, it was a great time in my life, and it was a really good experience, and I'm glad I had it.
Very cool. This has been great, Ty. We really, really appreciate you coming on with us. Again, the time difference, we've been chasing each other for a while on emails and texts and stuff. So I really appreciate you doing this for us. I hope this all has recorded, because if not, I'm going to be very, very upset.
Just give me a shout again. We'll rehash it. But yeah.
Awesome. Hopefully we don't have to do that, but I hope you've had a great time. And is there a way for those of us, whether we're in the US, Canada, we have listeners in Europe, all over the place, what would be the easiest way for us to follow the Mustangs and the Australian Ice Hockey League? Because I feel like some people are going to be all of a sudden very interested in the team after hearing this episode and want to know more.
Well, the AIHL TV, they have that. It's an app you can get. I'm not sure what you would stream it on, but I'm sure you could get it on any TV nowadays.
Right.
So that's actually the streaming service for the whole league. So all the games are televised, which is really cool. And obviously it's getting the word out here, because we are trying to grow the sport. And it's, we've gone from 6 teams when I first got here to 10 now, and with the NHL coming down and having games here, it's just been been really amazing for the sport.
That's awesome. And thanks again for coming on. We hope you had a great time.
Yeah, thanks guys for having me. I appreciate it.
And good luck to Carleton in
go Baggers.
Enjoy it.
Yeah, Mike, do you have any final thoughts for Ty before we let him get back to that beautiful beach that he's sitting on?
No, just very jealous of you can hear the beach. I hear the beach in the background, and I'm just like, oh my god.
I know, seriously.
It's tough to listen to, especially down there. And so thanks for coming on. It's been enlightening. It was great to hear. And also want to thank you for exonerating our guy Trevor Gillies, who didn't deserve what was thrown at him for that.
Absolutely. No, yeah, and thanks guys for having me on. It was nice to take a trip down memory lane with you guys.
Awesome.
Well, we're happy to do it.
Become a member at patreon.com/islandersanxiety for commercial-free episodes, bonus shows, written posts, chats, you know the whole drill. You could sign up for free to get our weekly release calendar or try a 7-day trial of our country club tier. Our theme song is Knuckles by Bjorn Falk. Listen to more of Bjorn's music on Bandcamp and on Spotify. Read Lighthouse Hockey every single day for your most up-to-date Islanders news and discussions. Islanders Anxiety podcasts are part of the Fans First Sports Network. Find us wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Please leave us a review wherever you can. Shop VintageIceHockey.com. Try wines from the Pinot Project. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with another great guest and another weird Islander. Until then, keep the Islanders weird. We'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.